So usually I bring in wonderful people who have a wealth of knowledge to share with you. And today I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Traci Williams, the owner of A Loving Way to Parent. And without further ado, here is Traci. Hi, Traci. How are you doing?
Hi, Dolly. Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for making time to come on the show and share a little bit about who you are and what you do. So will you please go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers and let them know what it is that you do?
Oh, absolutely. So I have a company called A Loving Way to Parent. And in that, I work with families on relationship building, communication skills. My goal is to take gaps in between parents and their kids and bridge those and have them come together. And so everything that I do really is for kids. I also am the executive director for Smart Moms, which is a single mother's nonprofit. And in that, again, I'm looking at how do we support moms who are raising kids alone so that the kids have the best opportunity and the most joy that they can growing up, even if they are under harder conditions and circumstances. So I'm really an advocate for children. That's what I consider myself, children and teenagers.
Yeah, and I've seen the work that you do just with your events and with Smart Moms, and I was very, very impressed. So it made me want to even like help out as much as possible because I see the value in that. And because I grew up the eldest of six siblings with a single mom.
Oh.
So when I go to Smart Moms and I see you work your magic and how you motivate and inspire and like the moms and the children, I always think, wow, I wish my mom would have had that when we were growing up, because I think it would have really made a big impact and a big difference on just like her morale, aside from many other things. I mean, everything turned out well, thank goodness. But I remember how tough it was for her to find that support, and also having a language barrier. And that's another thing I noticed with Smart Moms, that you have an array of different people. You have the last workshop that I went to, you had somebody from Romania, somebody from England, you had Latinas, you had African American, you have all, everybody's welcome. So I love that about it. And
Thank you.
yeah, so can you tell me a little bit more about A Loving Way?
Absolutely. So A Loving Way to Parent, well, basically, like I said, the focus is relationship building. So whatever I can do, a parent will come to me if they're concerned about their kids, or if they're getting attitude, or if they're having issues in school. So there's a variety of different things that will happen. They'll give me a call. I'll spend a little bit of time with them, usually on the phone, just to get a sense of what they have going on. And then it's either a class that might be helpful for them. Maybe they just need to tweak a few things and go to a parenting class, which I offer those. Or sometimes it'll be one-on-one coaching where I'll sit down with them, meet their kids, and kind of look at where a lot of times it's the communication between the two. They just simply don't understand. It's almost like one is speaking French and the other is speaking Spanish. And then I come in and I blend a language that they can both speak. And I would say probably 99% of the time, it's just a communication misunderstanding, because we don't generally change even what the kids are wanting, or we don't change what the parents are wanting. I find a way to let the kids and the parents see what the other person is wanting, and that it's okay, that it's actually out of love.
Mm-hmm.
And once they can see that they're not enemies, it's much easier for them to come together. Much easier.
I love how you say that it's like them speaking two different languages, because I'm a mom of two, a 12 and a 13-year-old, and oh my gosh, I feel that way sometimes. Like I say one thing and it's interpreted a totally different way, and then they say something to me and I don't understand clearly what they're trying to communicate to me. So that's really wonderful. And so do you focus on a certain age range, for the children, or a certain demographic?
I find that the age range kind of looks for me somehow, because I'm open. I believe in the value of, even when you're pregnant, like I played games with my kids when I was pregnant. I talked to them, I wrote them letters, did all kinds of things like that. And I believe in creating that relationship early. Like right as soon as you know you're pregnant, there's a human being in there, and there's so much you can do to create that relationship and that bond. So I'm fine working with people that are pregnant, ones that have babies. A lot of them don't realize that there's stuff that if they knew it in advance, like right now I'm working with a family and they have two little ones. They have a one that just turned 1 and then a teeny tiny, like I think she's 2 or 3 months old. So they went straight into having another one. And it's wonderful to be able to sit down. I'm going through all of the parenting classes with them, and we're talking about connection, the value, and how do you do that when they're babies. Then we talked about the next class is trust. How do you build trust with an infant? And then respect. It's, you know, you look at respect and think, well, there's nothing that an infant can do with that. But I told them, I said, the homework that you would normally do with your child, do that with each other. And when you guys learn to respect and trust each other, and you have a connection, and your little ones are so tiny, they grow up in that environment. That's what they see, that's what they hear, how you speak to each other, how you treat each other. That just becomes the norm. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to create. And then when you have connection, trust, and respect set up, then you have boundaries easy to do. Because if the kids are connected to you, they trust what you say. They may not always agree, but if they trust you and they're respecting you, then when you come up with boundaries that they're just like, I don't really like that, they still will go with the boundary. I found that with my own kids. Mm-hmm. They'll be like, I don't really like that. Yeah. I just say, will you trust me on this? I have a little longer on the planet, and they generally will go with it. Mm-hmm. So it just creates a smoother parent-child relationship and a smoother, there's a hierarchy, but there's also we're really guides. We're not bosses, we're guides. And as guides, though, sometimes we have to make those hard decisions. And a lot of times it comes when we're demanding, our kids push back. Or when we don't listen and we just tell them how it is, they will push back. They want to be part of the equation. This is their life, and they want to be part of the conversation. And so I just teach families how to do that talking. And if they're butting heads, it's not that hard to sit there and figure out what pieces aren't working. And even looking at like body language says a whole lot without even talking. Tone says a whole lot without talking. And people think words are the biggest piece, but they're really the smallest piece. And so just getting people to realize that, and even things, I'm thinking of stuff that's in my classes, introvert, extrovert will make a difference. If you have one introvert and one extrovert, and let's say mom and dad are both extroverts, the 3 extroverts will love to be out, and that introvert gets kind of overlooked on their needs, and they seem like a problem child.
Oh, wow.
They're just wired differently.
Wow, I never thought of that.
Yeah. So it's looking at little things like that, and even like the love languages, being able to notice, and kids will cycle through those so that over a period of years, they're experiencing all 5 love languages. And then as adults, we land on those that are most correct for us, is like which ones we really, really feel loved by. But if you don't know there's 5 basic love languages, the example I use with families a lot is at Christmas time. If someone's love language is gifts, Christmas is heaven for them because they just get tons of gifts. That makes them feel loved. Yeah. But a child that would prefer quality time, of course, the child is going to love having gifts, but it isn't going to meet the deepest need of love. It isn't going to be the message of love, that deep, deep part. And so they might be, I've heard families go, how could you be grumbly? How could you be disappointed? How could you be bored? You just got all these gifts for Christmas. Right. And if they understand love languages, they would realize if your child needs quality time or physical touch or words of affirmation, if those things are more important than gifts, it's not that they don't appreciate the gifts. They are just wired to receive love in a different way. So giving a gift of like a game, family time, movie night, things like that, those gifts would be meaningful because they create quality time moments. Mm-hmm. But that's a lot of what I do is figuring out how are people wired. That's the family dynamics piece of it. How are they wired? And then how do we take all of these people in a family, and instead of working against each other and competing and pushing against, how do we create collaboration? How do we turn it into a team? And most kids, well, that's one thing with me being a coach, kids like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, oh, okay, I understand a coach. And then we talk about their family being a team. And they understand that a coach, like their parents would be a coach on the field and they're team players. And so they kind of understand that concept that even if your parents get into the field with you, just like the coach would get into the field with you, you never forget that the coach is the coach.
Right.
So, because parents will sometimes be afraid of being a peer with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like that. It's if you know you're the parent, there's no, just like a coach knows they're the coach, then there's no question about that. You can get on that ground, you can get on the field, you can kick the ball, you can do all those things, and your kids still respect you. They know who you are. Sometimes we just have to get into the trenches with our kids. I mean, that's how you create that connection. That's how you pass on experiences that you've had as a kid and things that you find that are meaningful. They need to feel our hearts. They need to feel us.
Right.
That's what kids, especially today, really respond to.
Yeah. So you mentioned a few things that I want to go back to. So you
Sure.
said my classes. So do you have a series of classes? So if I'm a parent that feels like I need some coaching from you, how does that work? What would it look like? Would I have to come in, I have the 15-minute consultation, and then from there I would have to sign up for these classes, or is, how does that work?
I usually recommend, so if someone is going to do the classes, and they're for all ages, so I've even worked with families that have adult children.
Okay.
So in these classes, you can see where you've maybe gone off track in the past, and then you also see the future on where you have new choices, where you could make a different choice. So on these classes, like the first one is called the Bridge, and that class is basically set up so that you can see from birth to adult what the process is in raising a child. It just gives you the big picture, like the helicopter view. We talk about the things that happen in the teenage years so that if you're in those, you know you're not alone. If you haven't gotten there yet, you know it's coming, so you can be prepared. There are some things there that you can avoid and some things that you can't, so it's good to know the difference. We also talk about what's so hard in those little years, the toddler, like 2, 3, 4, are really challenging. Why are those challenging? And why is it really important to be very present for your kids and not push them aside until they're 5 or 6 or 7? Still have those conversations. Why is that important? And we talk about what I call wild cards. So if there's a death in the family, if you move, sometimes when a parent loses a job, there's strife and there's friction in the house. A divorce, a remarriage, a new baby. There's so many different things that will throw kids off. Some kids want to move.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids, it's the worst thing you could ever do to them.
Yeah.
Sometimes going to a new school is great, sometimes not. My daughter, she had 2 best friends that lived across the street. They were sisters, and they ended up moving. Wild card for her. That just ruined everything for her when she was little. So being able to notice if your kids are off a little bit, if they're moody, if they're seeming to be disrespectful, a lot of times we'll send them to their room. You need to go to your room and have an attitude adjustment, or go be by yourself until you can come back and apologize. And I try to steer parents in a different direction and say they're struggling,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know how to tell you what's going on with them. So it comes out in these oddball ways. If you sat down and said, hey, that's not something that you would normally say to me, or that's not your normal way of being right after school, or something's off, if we're just honest with them and say, hey, this is unusual, what's going on? And sometimes it's something that we've done. Like I've said to my kids many times, did I hurt your feelings somehow accidentally? Because you would not normally talk to me like that. And I'm thinking that maybe I did something that I'm not aware of, or something happened at school, or they're worried about something. And with so many families being divorced, you don't know sometimes what's happening in the other house.
Yeah.
We just don't know. And our kids don't know how to bring those things up because families are so busy. Parents are busy. We're just moving, boom, boom, boom. And kids don't know when to dive in and say, oh, hey, by the way, or they might, and we don't know how serious it is. And we just say, yeah, I'll talk to you in a little bit. And we get busy, distracted, and then it just gets forgotten. So it's really noticing those things and being able to jump in to those. But just to get back, sorry, I get so off track.
That's okay. Very good.
But, yeah, so that's the wild cards. And being able to notice that is helpful because it's not always the kids doing something wrong. Sometimes it's them saying, I need help in a completely different language. It's helpful to know that. Then the last piece of that class I talk about is the essential elements. What are the things that no matter how old your child is, would be great to have in your relationship? What are the things to focus on? The most important things, the less important things. What do you need to do to, you're not going to have a perfect relationship and you're not going to always end up at the end with everything that you want. But how can you, at the end of the day, look back and say, I did the best I could. I gave everything that I could. Because kids, you know, they're going to make their choices. We don't, there's so many, like me, my parents didn't like every choice I ever made. But some choices we have to make because it's the right choice for us. And our parents will get over it, you know, and our kids are going to be the same. I have things I'd love for my kids to do. Some they'll do, some they won't. But when you can step back and say, it's okay, I give them the information, the wisdom, but it is their life to make those decisions. And I'm here if you need me. That's the relationship to create. And so the key elements I have found are the connection, trust, respect, and boundaries. And so those are, I have the bridge class, and then I have the connection, the trust, and the respect class. Those are 3 different classes. And then the boundaries class comes after that. So now let's talk about boundaries. Now that you've invested in your child and you have a relationship, now let's talk about boundaries, because it's a lot simpler at that point. Now you can talk about things. And then the last class that I do for that series is called the plan class. And what I have people do is bring the homework, bring the notes from the class, and then let's look and find patterns and things that they look at and go, yeah, I would like to do this different. Oh, and I noticed in the respect part of it, I have that again, and I have that again in this class. And then we look at how do you put a plan together for each child on how you're going to relate to them so that you can increase your connection, your trust, and your respect, and have a much happier home life.
I love this.
Yeah, so it's totally awesome.
Yeah, it's so in depth. I love that. So then when a parent or a family comes together, they have to attend every class together every time, or do you have separate ones that are more for the child, and then you do kind of like the same class but with the parents separately?
These classes, the parenting classes, are just for the parents.
Ah, okay.
And then if they want to do anything with the kids, it would be a teen panel event if they have teens,
Okay.
or do the one-on-one. And then I'll sit down and kind of break it up depending on what's going on in the family. And I also have, like I have a dads only class for dads to understand who they could be for their daughters, and how to set the bar for who she chooses as a spouse, and how to show their sons how to treat a woman and how to be to their sisters, while dad is showing them by being that way with their mom. You know, just different things that they don't realize that they have the power over.
Yeah.
And then it's one on sibling rivalry, one on homework, and just try and find topics that are hot topics that people want some information on, and then creating classes. And I'm right now in the middle of putting those on video, because it's hard for me to meet everybody's schedules, to be able to have a class when it works for everyone. So I thought this way I can put them on the website, and then people can take the classes when they want to. And if they have additional questions about them, I'm always available for that as well.
Oh, I'm excited about that for myself, because everything you've talked about, I'm like, oh, I could use that too. Actually, my other question is the love languages. So yes. I took the assessment, because you can do that when you buy the book. So do you assess it the same way through that website, or do you have your own method of assessing what the language is for each individual in the household?
I actually send them to 5lovelanguages.com.
Okay.
One thing about me is I do not like reinventing wheels.
Yeah.
So if something's already out there, I love it. And if it's a good resource, I will use it and I will send people there. If there's a resource that's missing and I am able to create it, that's when I'll create something. And so what I usually do with families, and I find this to be very fun, is you tell your kids, like you sit down in a little family meeting, you tell your kids what the options are for love languages. And then you give them a few minutes to think about, what do you think your love language is? And then also on their little piece of paper, what love language do you think each person in the family has? You know, let's guess for dad, let's guess for mom, brother and sister. And so everybody's guessing what they think that love language is. And then they go and they take their assessments. Then they come back and they share their results and find out who knew what each person's love language was. It's just another way to do something fun, to create the team where we're all together doing something. and to learn about each other and to learn about themselves.
Yeah.
Bringing that into kids,
Yeah.
it just gives them, empowers them to understand how people are different. They're not wrong. They're just different. And
Right.
we can acknowledge that, and we can love them in a special way. I also, to go, I don't know if they do this in the, I've read his book, but it's been quite a while. One of the things that I also offer to families as far as a suggestion is, once you understand each other's love language, then when I know mine, I actually will write out a list of the specific things that make me feel loved. So if I want quality time, what does my quality time look like?
Oh, yeah.
And then you can give that to your spouse, or you give that to your kids, or you can have it in like a jar. If you just have a jar that's got everybody's love languages or things that they like, or gifts, if you're going out to get a birthday gift or something, you can pull it out of that jar. But you're trying to find ways that people can surprise each other without having to guess and be wrong, or ask and hope the person doesn't remember, those types of things. But just coming up with ways to really love each other and be successful.
Right. Yeah. So let me pivot a little bit, and I have other questions, because I know you have a lot of experience working with families and kids for a long time now. So what are some of the top challenges that you have seen that teens are facing today? So if there's a parent here who has never really heard a conversation about this, what would you tell them to look out for?
Oh boy, with teens, there's so much going on right now. Overwhelm. If
Yeah.
their child does not, if you can tell your child is not happy, a lot of times we're just pushing on them, get your homework done, get it turned in. We're mad at them for not doing maybe chores and stuff like that. But sometimes kids are really getting overwhelmed, and they don't feel like they can say anything to mom or dad. Because mom and dad just are like, hey, I've been in middle school, I've been in high school, I've had a teacher. This is a hard year, I understand that, but you need to get your job done. I had to get my job done. And I think what a lot of families don't understand is that growing up today is different, and school is very different. I don't know if you're aware of the GPA used to be 4.0. That was the top.
Yes.
Now it's 5.2 and higher, and it's still growing. There isn't a cap on it, which I personally think is really, really wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it and I think I would not want to go to a job every day where I did not know what was expected, and I didn't know what other people had expected of them if I was somewhat competing. I mean, when you're looking to go to college and stuff, only so many people get in. Well, they're competing with these GPAs, and they're working on the weekends, they're working on, at night, they stay up late at night, they don't get enough sleep. That's another thing, is there's a lot of issue with being able to go to sleep on time, or even when you go to sleep, laying in bed for a couple of hours, or being able to get up in the morning. I mean, they'll, even if they're using coffee to get up in the morning, that's the beginning of some kind of substance dependence.
Yes.
Coffee's not a big deal. Most people think that's no big deal. It could be drugs. One day it could be drugs if the coffee doesn't do what it is that they think it needs to be doing. And we don't want to shut down our body mechanisms. We need it to go to sleep when it's time to go to sleep, because it knows how to do that. We need it to wake up when it's time to wake up. But if that's a regular thing where your kids are having trouble with that, something isn't working. The system that they're in isn't working with the system of their body. And just the amount of homework that kids have. Kindergartners have homework. Kindergartners that I've worked with have anxiety. We did not have anxiety at that time. And if you think about the whole thing with schools being locked all the time, parents are locked out, kids are locked in, and there are bullies on every campus, as you know. And so just knowing that kids are under a lot of pressure, the depression, anxiety, suicide is the second leading cause of death starting at age 10. And it is younger than that as well. So there's so much pressure on them. We didn't lose friends to suicide. We didn't have friends that were cutting themselves. We didn't have the depression, anxiety. Some kids just have a hard time functioning at school. They have panic attacks. So, and this is all happening on a very large scale. It's like epidemic. So what we need to do, we can't maybe necessarily go out and fix all of it. We're not going to go out and make a huge change in the world as a whole, but you can make a change in your home. and you can make a change in your family. And with your one student or two students or three students, you can listen to them, talk to them, talk to the teachers, find ways to work things out. I remember when my kids were in school, I just told the teachers we don't work on weekends. If my kids want to, they can. But if you're going to assign something on a Friday and expect it back on Monday, I am here to tell you that we're not going to have it in on Monday.
Ooh.
They'll have it in on Tuesday because that's reasonable. That's as if you gave it to them on Monday. And I would do it very respectfully, but I was very clear. On the holidays, you know, we have so many people like games, sports games. They have championships and all of that on Thanksgiving weekend. It's family time. You know, it's relative time. It's travel time. That's when you get to be with grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins. But we're in that stress part. Let's eat dinner. Pardon me. Eat Thanksgiving dinner. And then we're off on our travels to doing our championships. And we have to start getting back to the basics of family. And I think that's what's missing for a lot of kids is they're overwhelmed, they're stressed out, they have a lot on their plate. Parents don't understand that. They don't know that there's the difference in the languaging. So the kids are telling them in Spanish and they're listening in French and they're going, I don't know what you're talking about, because times have changed.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of times parents will take away devices. That seems to be the favorite, you know, I'm going to take away all of your devices until you get all your homework done. But that's their social world. And so it can't be just randomly taking everything away or not giving time limits. You know, how long is it going to be taken away? I see a lot of kids that are like, I don't know when I'm getting my phone back. And it's just, when we want them to be respectful to us, we need to be respectful to them. And it's not giving away our power. It's empowering the next generation to be great leaders and great human beings. It's treating them the way we would want to be treated. It's some of those basic elements. But that's a lot of what I see in school, and a lot of stuff is online, and you know, so we don't really know what they're learning in school anymore because things are different. And you can't interrogate your kids because they don't want that, and lecturing, they don't respond to that. But when you actually sincerely care and have a curiosity and you want to get to know their friends, and when you see that something's off and you say, hey, is there something going on? Is there something I can do to help you? Instead of saying, why didn't you take out the trash? Why didn't you make your bed? You didn't put your dishes in the sink. We don't want to come at them for things. We want to find out, wait a minute, I noticed something's changed. What's going on? How can I be there for you? Because they have to have a safe place.
Yeah.
If home is just supporting school, and if home is just about get all your stuff done, you know, at home that you need to get done, and there's no, how are you as a person? Who are you as a person? What do you want in life? What are your dreams? We have to have those conversations, and enjoying a meal together, just enjoying a meal.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's one of the things that we've always done at home, where we sit down and have dinner together. And that's where discussions happen. And
it's that times have changed, and usually two parents are working.
Yeah.
And so you have that, then you have multiple kids, and then you have sports after school because we want the enrichment. So you're going in all these different directions. Parents are tired, and they're busy, and they're stressed. Those are the three things that are the most impactful. Is they're tired, they're busy, and they're stressed. And we are doing what we do for our kids. I've heard numerous conversations between parents and kids where the teenagers are mad at the parents and say, you know, you haven't been there for me all these years and now you want to tell me what to do. And they're angry, and they really do not feel that is, you know, you don't have a right to tell me what to do. I've raised myself. I've heard that.
Oh, wow.
And the parents are shocked because they're like, I put a roof over your head. I paid for your clothes, your everything, got you to school. And the kids wanted a relationship. They wanted time. And so the parents are doing what they think they need to be doing. And that's, you know, taking care of the basic needs. Right. But we're forgetting about the basic emotional needs. And it's because it's so much for us to take care of, having a roof over the head and food on the table and making sure everybody gets where they need to go and having money for everything. Ooh. So a lot of it is we get caught up in running our everyday life, and we literally miss the moments where the relationship happens.
Yeah.
And then years go by and we don't know why we don't have a relationship. But if we sat back and thought about it, we would realize that when we were growing up, we had dinner time. We weren't out at sports, and we had breakfast. And there was, you think about grocery stores used to close at 8 o'clock. Gas stations were only open during normal business hours. A bank would never be open on a Saturday. And
Oh,
you could not shop on Amazon
yeah.
at midnight.
Right.
So there was like home time was built in, because where else would you be at 9 o'clock at night?
Right.
You would be home. And then everybody went to bed earlier. So it's just the lifestyle as a society has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that we're going to change that back is if parents will stop and say, my kids are not going to do homework on a weekend. We're not going to do a championship game over a holiday. And you don't just suddenly go on strike, but you start getting enough parents that say this doesn't work, because a lot of teachers already know that doesn't work,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't do anything about it. It's their job to teach a certain amount of curriculum and to pass this information on and have the kids do the work. Parents are the ones, bottom line, they're the advocates. They're the ones that have the power to say no.
Yeah.
They're the ones that have the power to say this needs to be different. And when enough of them do, then there won't be anyone there on a Sunday to play a game, or there won't be anyone turning in homework on a Monday, so everybody turns it in on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. They'll have to change. Some of the pieces that aren't working will just have to be changed. But if you look at the way that our kids are responding to things with the vaping and just the depression, anxiety, suicide, that kind of stuff, they're not doing well under the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And we keep on putting on the pressure, and that's only going to create more problems. We have to pull away from the pressure in a healthy way. We don't just pull it away. There has to be, can't do the pendulum swinging back and forth, which is what we've done. There has to be a gradual, and the way to do it gradually is to do it one family at a time.
Yeah.
And to look at your own kids. Some kids love to get the work done,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to do it over the weekend and be the first one to turn it in on Monday. So that's fine, if that's what they want to do, as long as you can still build in some family time.
Mm-hmm.
But you find, and like we talked about earlier, the introvert and extrovert. Some kids want to be out at those games, and other kids are like, oh, I just can't do one more day around people. I need to be inside because they need to be recharged.
Yeah.
So it's really understanding each of your kids and understanding yourself. And then finding out as a family, I love family meetings, like everybody coming together and saying, what do you need to make your life even better than it is right now? What is working for you? What isn't working for you? There's just some really cool questions that you can ask kids. And when they grow up with those conversations, that's normal to them.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that stuff. And then they take that into with their kids. And now you've passed on a legacy of communication. Mm-hmm. Instead of being busy and just doing what society says. Our GPA will keep going up until somebody says, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And you just, more and more people say no, 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 because parents have the power. They just don't realize it. This younger generation, I don't think they understand how much power they have as a parent. Mm-hmm. We've given it away, and we need to take that back, because home is the hub. Mm-hmm. That's where life happens. That's where relationships are made at their core. That's where we teach how to deal with issues that come up and disagreements and personality conflicts. That's where you teach those things. And then they go out into the world and they play with them, and then they come back and it's like, yeah, I had a problem with my friend. Oh, let's talk about that. And we work through those things. But parents have kind of outsourced their role as parents, because nobody can outsource the role of making money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it basically, because you can outsource childcare and you can outsource cooking, you can get pre-made food. The things that we can outsource, we do, and the things that we can't outsource, we don't. And it just has flip-flopped how we live life. And that's the biggest challenge on parents and kids right now.
Yeah. Wow. That's so good to know. I mean, I've heard some of this, but not all of it, not the way that you explained. And as you're saying it, I keep thinking about, yeah, I have been that parent that has fallen into that trap of, I got to get this and this and this and this done. And then next thing you know, I've gotten it all done, or I still have a little bit more to go. And the girls are getting ready to go to bed. And I realize, wow, I didn't really get to talk to them today. And it makes me sad. And then so I reflect on that. And I'm like, okay, tomorrow I'm just going to let it all go. If the dishes are just, stacking up, let them be, and there's always tomorrow. I mean, I don't even have guests coming in into the house anytime soon. So, what's the point? So it's just a reminder, because we do get swept up in all of that. And I think trying to be more consciously aware of that can go a lot further than we realize. Because sometimes, I think, oh, maybe I should have, I don't know, spent a little more time. One of the things I used to do with them when they were very young is we would sit around the table and I would tell them, what were your best 3 things that happened today? And what were your worst 3 things, that were crummy about today? And they actually look forward to those questions. And to this day, we still do it. And then when my brother brings his daughters over, and they're very young, we do that with them, and they just think it's so fun. They love coming over, and they're like, let's sit around the table and, okay, auntie, ask us the question. So
Awesome.
yeah, thank you for that reminder. So the other thing I want to ask about is, well, I've experienced the teen panel. I loved it. My husband and I and my girls, they were really excited. I just loved how you did it. But for those who have never been, and you have one coming up soon, so can you tell us a little bit about why you created it and what its purpose is, and when the next one is?
Sure. So I'll start with the last question first. The next one is February 22nd, so people can start writing that on their calendar. And that's in Temecula.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very simple. I created them actually not even planning to do that. It was because I was seeing so many teenage boys. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, what can I do for these boys? I'm a female. I can't teach them how to be men. Some of them had dads in their house and some of them didn't. And I realized that we can only teach what we know. We can only give what we have. And somehow these boys were not getting some of the pieces that they needed. So whether their dads maybe didn't get it from their parents, or they didn't have time to give it to their boys because they're busy working, for whatever reason, these boys were struggling. And it was a lot of different boys. And so it just came on me. I feel like God just said, you're going to put together an event. And I'd never thought of this before. You're going to put together an event. You're going to bring men from the community, different ages, different experiences, and they are going to bring wisdom for these boys. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that makes sense. So long story short, I went ahead and put this event on. We're going into our 3rd year now. Mm-hmm. And the boys loved it. We had a full house, and it was amazing to hear from the men in the community, all different ages, different experiences. And these boys were just like, wow, this is interesting. And then I asked, at the end of that event, I asked if any of the boys, because it dawned on me that it would be great to hear from the kids, but I didn't know, these are boys, do they even want to talk? Yeah. And so I asked them, would any of you be interested in being on a panel if we did a panel with students? They all raised their hand. Now, when I got the feedback sheets back where they could actually give me their information and say, yeah, I want to do it, some of them said, I'd love to do it, but I'm too shy, or I'd love to do it, but I'm not good at public speaking. And that's fine. My kids never wanted to be on a panel, and that, it's just not for everybody. And, but I knew that they wanted a voice. And so the kids that did say they did want to be on a panel, I thought, I can't wait. It was in March that we did that. And I hadn't planned on doing another one before the end of school. And so I just put everything out there and said, okay, we have to put another one on. Like, I think it was 6 weeks later, we put another one on with kids on the panel, because I felt like I don't want to wait through summer and then into the fall to give them a voice. They need a voice right now. They need to know I heard them and the community heard them. So we did that. We put on, I put boys and girls on the panel. And that was so eye-opening for parents to hear middle school, high school, college students all saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. Parents get a real good look at what it's like. And I tell families, if you have a 5th grader that's going to be going into middle school, I wouldn't bring the 5th grader, but I would come as a parent to see what is coming around the corner, so you as a parent can be prepared for where your kids are going to be. Yeah. And then with 6th graders and above, I say, bring your kids. Sometimes they're afraid a little bit with the 6th graders. The thing is, they're in the environment. They are being exposed to things. They're hearing things. They're having conversations about things. And we're thinking if we don't talk about it, we're protecting them. But all we're doing is we're not giving them our perspective on it. We're not having the conversation that they really need to have, which is what we think about something. So, and then I had girls coming to me and saying, well, wait a minute, when are you going to have women on the panel? You had boys and men, but you didn't have girls and women. So we did a women's panel. And then now where we are, fast forward to our third year, we do 2 teen panels with boys and girls on it, and we do 2 adult panels with men and women on it. And we do 2 per semester, and it just trying to figure out how to get in between midterms and finals and proms and all the different activities the schools have. We have February, April, September, and November are the months that we're able to put those on. And they've been phenomenal. The things that these kids are able to share. We've had kids that have been thinking about suicide that choose not to do it because they hear how it impacts people because they didn't know. We have kids that connect with kids from the panel where they're just like, oh, I can totally relate to what you're saying. I had one guy on a recent panel and a student said he totally related to that one panel member because of the drug history for him. And it's just, one person can't do everything for anybody. But when you as a community bring multiple people, every panel is different people. And every panel that comes up, each person has changed. So I tell families, come to each one because you're going to get one with kids and then you're going to get the adults. Then next semester, you're going to do the same thing. And every semester, your kids are growing a ton. And have them bring friends. And if their parents won't come, they can come on their own. If parents come and the kids won't come, they can come on their own. Because we just want to give that education. So we're educating parents and we're bringing hope to kids. That is our whole purpose with that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the one in February, and I went to one of the teen panels and I was just amazed. I mean, not only was it fun, but I learned so much, and some things, I've spoken to my daughter about, and she's pretty open, and she was part of this panel. So when I heard some things that she was sharing, I thought, why didn't you tell me this? Like, why, what happened? I'm not asking the right questions because I didn't even think to ask certain questions. So that's my biggest takeaway from this panel. And every time I talk to a parent who's going through something with their teen, I'm like, you've got to come to this, and I tell them the teen panel, it was so eye-opening about so many things from the drug use to the anxiety, sexual activity or access to inappropriate things. It was just very, very valuable. And my husband loved it too. And I love how you just put the whole thing together. It felt like it was in a very safe environment. And I think that's why the kids were able to enjoy and open up, to the whole discussion. So thank you for that. So
you're welcome. Yeah, I really do my very best to make it safe and to make it a very raw and open place.
Yeah.
Kids that are on the panel, the adults that are on the panel, they know that they are changing lives by sharing their story.
Right.
And that's the whole thing. But I love the community part of it. And because we even have businesses that come in and help sponsor the cost for that. And just having the businesses participate, the adults, the kids, the volunteers, it's a community event because we care about our village that we're growing.
Yeah. So do you have any last words, any takeaways or pieces of advice that you'd like to share with our viewers?
I would say communication. If I could only give you one piece of advice, it would be to start communicating. And a lot of times we don't know how to communicate. Please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to give you just some pointers if you need them on how to communicate differently if you feel like you're not getting what you want or need with your kids. And but just being able to spend time, even if you spent 10 minutes every night talking about the highs and the lows. If you could do one meal a week together and then switch that to two times a week. We used to spend 90 minutes at dinner in 2005, the average family. Now it's 13 minutes.
Wow.
8 years later, it's 13 minutes, the average family versus the 90.
Wow.
So just if you're not having dinners together at all, it will be very daunting. Like, how are we going to blend that in? It's okay. Don't feel guilty about stuff. Just look at where am I right now and what's one small step that I could take forward that would make a difference. Just has to be one small step. And the other thing is, if you think about it like a dance, if you're in a dance with your kids, it's like doing the cha-cha or the tango or any of those. There's certain dance steps and you just naturally do them. You're in default, just da 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 da, you know how to do the dance. If you do not want to do the tango, you want to do a different dance, all it takes is one person in the dance to change one step.
Mm-hmm.
One person changing one step will take you out of the tango.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with your kids. If I choose to do one thing different, just one time, it's enough to disrupt the pattern. I give that to the kids as well. Maybe their parents have bad days as well, which they do. And I tell them, because I want them to feel empowered as well. They're not a victim to what's happening around them. You can still do your part and you can disrupt the pattern by doing your footing different in the dance. And just when everybody's working together towards something better, it's bound to happen. And they're bound to fall down and get back up. So not feeling guilty, working on the communication, and finding some amount of time, even if it's 10 minutes a week, something more than what you're doing to start that relationship building. It will always, always, always be worth the time and effort.
Thank you. Those are great golden nuggets. And lastly, where is the best place for people to reach you?
Let's see. If they want to call me, I'm at 951-240-1407. Email is Traci, Traci, at alovingway.com.
Okay.
The website is alovingway.com. And if they want to go straight to the teen page for February to register, which would be awesome, I'd love to see them there, they can go to teenpanelforparents.com.
Perfect.
Those would be great ways to get in touch.
Yeah, I'll make sure all of that information is on the show notes with links and everything. And of course, I'll be posting everything online as well on social media.
Awesome. Yeah, and we're on Loving Way to Parent on Facebook as well. You can also get information from there.
Awesome. Well, Traci, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I have so many takeaways, and I'm really looking forward to your teen panel. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you, Dahlia. I appreciate being here.
You're welcome.